Let's talk about the war in the DRC, shall we? So first off, the war began by stemming off of the Rwandan genocide. Various refugee groups, Hutus and Tutsis alike, spilled over into the Democratic Republic of the Congo during the Rwandan conflict, and some Hutu genocidaires even armed themselves during this time to continue their horrible mission of ethnic cleansing against Tutsis in this new country they found themselves in. And in response, the Tutsis present in the Democratic Republic of the Congo armed themselves as well. This chain of events led to a cascading of armaments, as I'll call it, as various other groups in the country saw the beginnings of this conflict as their chance to seize what they wanted, whether that be governmental or territorial control, or more likely, the massive amount of mineral resources contained within the Congo. Scholars estimate this to be $24 trillion worth of resources. Regardless of their motivations, many other groups joined the fighting around this time, including various Mai groups. Now, Mai groups are generally defined as a community militia made with the purpose of defending their territory against other armed groups. There are many of these active in the Congo right now, and are often led by tribal leaders. Another group is the National Congress for the Defense of the People, which is a political militia led by rebellious General Laurent Nkunda, who was sympathetic to the genocide of the Tutsis in Rwanda. This faction was actually shut down when it split in 2009 and Nkunda was arrested by the government of Rwanda. M23 is another movement. The March 23rd movement is actually no longer operating in the Congo, but grew out of the Congo government military rebellion, which cited poor conditions in the military and the government's unwillingness to implement the March 23rd, 2009 peace treaty with the CNDP. This was shut down after the 12th of December 2013, when peace declarations between them and the government were signed. The National Forces of Liberation and the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda are both ethnic Hutu groups which were formed from the genocidaires who fled Rwanda and exist in opposition to Tutsi influence in their home country. The Lord's Resistance Army is sort of an anomaly in this group section. They say that they mostly want to establish a multi-party democracy, and they're also a heterodox Christian sort of group, but they're really probably just a cult of personality surrounding their leader, Joseph Kony. The National Army for the Liberation of Uganda is actually a Ugandan rebel group that retreated into the Congo due to conflicts in their own country, where they joined with another Ugandan rebel group in the Congo, the Allied Democratic Forces. The Bundu dia Congo is literally Gathering of Congo, which is a religious and political movement based in the Congo, which aims to create an ethnically Congo state in most of what is now the DRC. Armed Forces of the Democratic Republic of the Congo is another group, which is the Congo Government Military, made up of members of many different rebel forces, and they're often mixed up and put together in different squads with former members of opposing groups to facilitate integration and cooperation. Lastly, but not least, ISIS is also in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Yes, ISIS. The major events of the conflict are as follows. The Rwandan genocide occurred in 1994, and in 1996 to 1997, Tutsi rebels captured much of eastern Zaire, as the DRC was known back then, and captured the capital Kinshasa and installed their own government. President Laurent Désiré Kabila was also installed. In 1998, Rwandan and Ugandan-backed rebels moved against Kabila, and the neighboring countries of Namibia and Angola tried to repel this attack by siding with Kabila. The rebels now controlled most of the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. In July of 1999, all the countries involved signed a ceasefire, and a month later the rebel groups involved also signed. In 2000, the UN authorized a 5,500-strong UN force to monitor the ceasefire, but fighting continued amongst the rebels, the government, Ugandan, and Rwandan forces. And in January of 2001, President Kabila was assassinated by a bodyguard, and his son Joseph succeeded him. February of that same year, the Rwandan president met with the Ugandan president, and they agreed to pull their troops out of the Democratic Republic of the Congo according to a UN plan, as do the rebels. In 2003, President Kabila signed a transitional constitution for an interim government to rule the Congo. Some fighting continued after this, but mostly it was a period of relative peace. Free elections happened, the UN was still present in peacekeeping, and in 2008, the government signed a peace treaty with General Nkunda to end conflict in the east. But then, fighting began anew in 2008, which continues, and then in 2013, 11 African countries signed a treaty to help end the violence in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, but fighting still continues to this day. Now, a truly horrible dimension of this conflict is the atrocities committed by all sides against not only civilians, but against other combatants and their own treatment of their soldiers. A report by the UN earlier this year found in a certain conflict in the Kasai region in late 2016 was especially horrible, with cases of women being forced to choose between gang rape or death, mass beheadings, and children being told that magic had made them invincible, and being forced to fight for their captors unarmed or with sticks. And this isn't the only time crimes against humanity have been committed during this conflict. 6 individuals have been arrested for crimes against humanity and war crimes during the course of it, including rape, enlistment of children, sexual slavery, willful killings, pillaging, mutilation, torture, and attacking against the civilian population. The UN, however, has been quick to condemn the actors in this conflict of war crimes and has also been involved in peacemaking and peacekeeping attempts numerous times over the course of the conflict, and UN troops have even seen combat themselves. Other African countries are also extensively involved in the fighting, as most neighboring countries to the Congo have rebel groups stationed there or are fighting proxy wars of sorts by sponsoring different groups in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And the United States as well has been involved policy-wise, as the meeting between the Rwandan, Ugandan rebel group leaders in February of 2001 occurred in Washington, D.C. The U.S. was also a leader in placing economic sanctions on minerals that came from the conflict zones, which may have caused even more fighting, as rebels attempting to finance their causes turned to other ways to do so, and miners who depended on these goods for a living were forced to join militant groups to provide for themselves. So, finally, is peace possible in this war-torn area? Simply put, no. At least not anytime soon. The deep-seated ethnic and political divisions, as well as religious and economic motivations behind the conflict, seem almost too much to overcome even in the long run, and the UN has even accused armed groups of prolonging the conflict so that they may profit off of it. The sheer number of factions involved in the DRC makes it almost impossible to think of one ever coming out on top, or all of them simply disbanding peacefully, laying down their weapons and creating a new government. And this seems especially unlikely considering how long the fighting has already drawn on, since the 90s. The atrocities committed even further lessen the path to peace, as they have created a new tradition of hate and horror in the Congo. Is peace ever possible in this region? Is the Democratic Republic of the Congo simply a failed state? That's up to the future to decide.